Hello friends, welcome to another session of video tutorials on C#.NET programming by example. This is part 4 of this series. In today's session, we are going to cover the following topics. We'll cover methods and how to call them by value, call them by reference, and finally we will go through in, out, and ref parameter. Okay, let us take a look at what is a method first. A method is a code block that contains a series of statements. That means it is a block which contains a series of executable statements. So how do we execute these statements? A program executes these statements by calling the method and specifying any required method arguments. Okay, so where do we declare the method? A method can only be declared within a class or a struct, and it consists of the following things. First one is access level, the second one is optional modifier, third one is return type, fourth one is name of the method, and fifth one is method parameters. Okay, so we will see an example later on. Okay, we will take a look at access level and optional modifiers in later videos in detail. So how do we call a method? Calling a method on an object is like accessing a field. After the object name, add a period, the name of the method, and parenthesis. So we'll see an example of this. Let us switch to Visual Studio. So we'll close this solution. Okay, I'm going to open up a new project, create a new project. Again, I'm going to select console application. So here I'm going to give the name as method demo. Click on OK to create a console application. Okay, so we already have one method inside the class. So by default, it is going to create a class called program. Inside that, you have a main method. So this is a special method wherein the program execution starts from this method. So main is a special method from where the execution starts. Okay, however, we are going to create one more method here. So first I'm going to declare it as public static void print hello. Okay, so I have created a method here. Access level, I have declared it as public here, and the second one is optional modifier. Optional modifier in my case is static. Return type is void, and name of the method is print hello. And method parameters, none. So if I have to declare any method parameters, it will go into this bracket. Okay, so this is a simple method wherein I'm going to print console.writeLine again. So I'm going to print hello. Okay, so after creating that method, so since main is the method from where the execution starts, so I need to call that method from here. So to call that method, so I'll just type in print hello. So what happens here is, since main is the starting point, as soon as it hits print hello, the execution will be transferred to this print hello method, and it will execute all those statements which are inside this method block. So this is a method block. This is a method block. So as soon as it calls this method, so it is going to go ahead and execute all the statements within this block. Okay, let us see how this works. Let us execute this again. Control F5. So it just called that method and printed hello. Okay, now as you can see, I have added optional modifier which is static here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this optional modifier. Okay, as soon as I remove that, this says an object reference is required for non-static field, method or property. That means earlier the optional modifier which I used was static. So now this method has become non-static. To access any non-static method, we have to create an object of this class where this method belongs to. So right now this method belongs to this program class. So I'm going to create a new object of that. To create a new object, I need to type in the class name, the variable name is equal to new of program. Okay, so this will create an object of the class called program. And object P refers to program class. So now to call that method, I have to use this object P. Okay, as soon as I type in object P dot, so I get print hello. So I can access print hello through this reference. Okay, so this is what is said in the PowerPoint presentation. Calling a method on an object is like accessing a field. So what is a class, what is an object? We will take a look at all these in the later videos. Okay, so what it says is, after the object name, add a period, the name of the method, and followed by parenthesis. So now This is what we have done. So we had added an object followed by a period and the name of the method followed by parenthesis. So let us execute and see. Okay, so it still prints hello. Okay, so this method is called. Okay, so let us modify this slightly by adding parameter. So what I will do is I will pass in one more parameter of type string, which is first name or full name. Okay, so as soon as I change this, so now the method parameter is one parameter of type string. So now since the method signature has changed, the method signature is everything. It contains the access level, optional modifier, name of the method and method parameter except the return type. Okay, so since I have changed this, now I have to pass in some value here. So here I will pass it as Raj Tech Trainer. Okay, so instead of just saying hello, what I will do is I will change this to hello plus full name. That means it is going to print hello followed by the value which is passed to this particular method. In our case, it is Raj Tech Trainer. So the Raj Tech Trainer will be stored in full name, and then that will get printed here. Okay, so let us execute and see. Okay, again Control F5. Okay, so it printed hello Raj Tech Trainer here. Okay, so now let us go back to our presentation. So we have seen methods are declared within a class and then how to access a method. Okay, now we will take a look at what is the difference between a parameter and an argument. So an argument is a concrete value provided by the calling code. The arguments must be compatible with the parameter type which is specified in a method. Okay, so what is a parameter? A variable taking the value from the calling code. Method parameters are enclosed in parentheses and are separated by commas. So in our example, which is an argument and which is a parameter? So let us flip over and see. So this is, so Raj Tech Trainer is an argument, and here full name is parameter. As we can see, argument provides the concrete value. In our case, the concrete value is provided here, which is Raj Tech Trainer, and the parameter which holds this value is full name. Okay, and it says the arguments must be compatible with the parameter type. That means here I'm passing string since this method has got one parameter which is of type string. So here I cannot pass in any integer value which will mismatch with the parameter type. Okay, so it has to be same. Okay, so let us take a look at passing the parameters now. In C#, arguments can be passed to the parameters either by value or by reference. By default, all the parameters are passed by value in C#. So we have seen this example. This example is passing by value. Okay, so by default, all the parameters are passed by value. But what is the difference between by value and by reference? Okay, so by value. So currently, whatever the example which we have seen, we have passed the parameters by value. Okay, so a value type contains the data directly. That means the parameter holds this parameter holds the data directly, and it passes a copy of variable to the method. That means, so as soon as we pass in, it creates a copy and then it assigns that copied value to this variable name. Okay, any change to the parameter inside the method will not affect the passed data. Okay, so let us take a look. Now, to see that, so what I will do is I'm going to create a local variable here of type string. Okay, I'm going to pass this LV here. So since we are printing this value here, what I will do is I'll modify the value. So full name is equal to full name plus welcome. So after modifying, I'm going to print this value. So to differentiate, I'm going to call this as passed value. Okay, and then this one will be modified value. Okay, so to see that, I have to print this value here also. So CW LV. Okay, so let us execute this and see. Control F5 again. Okay, so this is the initial value which is passed. So it is going to print a large text trainer. Okay, and then after that I'm modifying this full name value inside this method, which is I'm adding this string at the end, which will become modified value is equal to hello Raj tech trainer welcome. Now after this method is executed, the execution will come back to the main method and it will print this value. So the original value doesn't change. So why it didn't change? Because we were passing the parameter by value. So whenever we pass it by value. So a copy is getting created here, and then whatever the modification which we do here will not be reflected in the calling method. Okay, so this is what is calling by value, or passing the parameter by value. Okay, in by reference, the reference type contains a reference to its data. So how do we achieve by reference? We can use in, ref or out keyword for passing the parameter by reference. Okay, so let us look at what is in, out and ref keyword. Okay, so what is in keyword? Whenever we pass a parameter with in keyword, the arguments cannot be modified by the called method. This is available only in C# 7.2 version. So currently my version of C# is 7. I cannot show you an example of this, but I will show you an example of out and ref keyword. So what happens in out? So any change to the argument in the called method is reflected in the calling method. Out keyword doesn't require that variable to be initialized before it is passed. That means you need not have to initialize the value whenever we use out keyword, but whenever we use ref keyword, the variable has to be initialized before it is passed. So in ref, what will happen is both the definition and calling method must explicitly use ref. Switch to Visual Studio. I'm going to create another class here. So I'm going to add another class. Yeah, call this as outref. Outref method. Click on add. So I'm going to comment this one out, since I can only have one main method inside a project. Okay, so I'm going to create a main method again here. So svm double tab. Okay, so I'm going to create the first method, which is public void. So I'm going to take two values now, int a comma int b. So this takes two parameters. This method takes two parameters of type integer. So what I will do is I will add them here. So I'm going to declare another variable called result inside this method. So result will store the sum of these two values which is being passed. Okay, and then I'm going to print the value of result here. Okay, and inside the main method I'm going to call this method to add two numbers. To do that, I have to create an object of this class okay, so object or dot add. So this is passing by value. So for example 4 comma 5 followed by semicolon. Okay, so let us execute and see for the whether this works first. Okay, so it is working. Okay, let us look at out keyword now. To do that, I have to assign a variable to these values. So I will declare two numbers. num1 is equal to 4 and num2 is equal to 5. So instead of this, what I will do is num1 comma num2. Okay, so to make use of out keyword, so I will use out here followed by num1 and then out followed by num2. And the same thing I'm going to do it at the method level also. Out and then out here. Okay, so I'm getting an error saying that the out parameter b must be assigned to before control leaves the current method. Okay, so here a is equal to 4, b is equal to 5. Okay, so now even though the values are assigned here, so if you use out keyword, the value should be assigned before it is used. So that is the reason I have assigned it here, and then I'm going to change the value here. A is equal to 14 now, and then b is equal to 15. Okay, I'm going to print the value of a and b here. Okay, so I'm going to print the value of a and b here, and I'm also going to print the value here. num1 is equal to plus num1 plus num2 equals plus num2. Okay, so let us execute and see. So let me explain this a little bit. The program starts with main, and then it is going to call this add method once it reaches this execution statement. Then it is going to call this method, and if a value is assigned with 4 and b value is assigned with 5. Now the result is a plus b, which is 9. So here this has printed 9 here, and after that I'm changing the value of a and b to 14 and 15. Okay, so a value is 14 and b value is 15. So after executing this, it will go back to the next line after this method is called, and then you can see the value of num1 and num2 changed to to 14 and 15. So here the num1 is 4 and num2 is 5, but within the called method we have changed the value of num1 and num2 to 14 and 15. Let us open up MS Paint. So what happened here is, so num1 so this is num2. Okay, so initially what does num1 contain? 4, and num2 contains 5. Okay, so since it is passed by reference, what will happen is, so here A and B are referring to num1 and num2. So num1 is referring to 4 and num2 is referring to 5. Now, so A will also start referring to this 4, and then B will refer to 5. Okay, so now inside the method we are changing the value of A and B. So since num1 and A both are referring to the same memory location, whenever I change the value from 4 to 14, okay, and then 5 to 15, what will happen is, since it is the same memory location, both will refer to the changed value, which is 14 and 15. So that is why we got 14 and 15 here. Okay, so even after the execution came back to the calling method. Out keyword says doesn't require that the variable be initialized before it is passed. So that means I need not have to initialize this value of the variable before I pass it with out keyword. So this will still work. Okay, so I don't get any error here. It will still work. If I press Ctrl F5 again, it will print the same value. Okay, so now what I will do is I will change the keyword from out to ref. Okay, so here also I need to change it to ref. Okay, so with ref I don't need to initialize the value within the method. Okay, so now I'm getting an error saying that use of unassigned local variable. So that means from this statement it says if you are using ref keyword, it requires that the variable be initialized before it is passed. So without initialization we cannot pass this variable. Okay, so that means the variable must be initialized before it is passed. Okay, so that is the difference between ref and out. So with out you need not have to initialize this, but you need to initialize the value inside the method. But in ref you need to initialize the value before you pass. Okay, so equals to 5. Okay, so now that error has gone away because we have initialized these values. So let us press Ctrl F5 again. Okay, the value of okay, so this line will print 9, and the value whatever we changed, since we are passing it by reference, the value the changed value will also reflect in the calling method. So this is calling method, and then this is called method. Okay, so with reference what we have seen so far is whether you use a ref or out keyword, whenever the called method changes the value of the parameter, that will still get reflected into the calling method, wherein if you are passing by value, whatever the change you do in the called method will not be reflected in the calling method. So that is the end of today's session. Please subscribe, share, comment and like the videos on this channel. Thanks for watching.